Lots of people think that apprenticeships and university are the only post-18 options you've got. What if these aren't for you? Because there are 6 other options that you could be considering at this time. This video is going to tell you what they are and what you can do to find out more. So first of all, let's tackle apprenticeships and universities. University is one form of higher education and students generally go off and they study a full-time degree. However, there are lots of other options within this area. So for example, there are part-time courses, but there are also what we call HTQs, higher technical qualifications, which are currently gaining momentum. There are qualifications that you can take at college. There are qualifications that you can also take through distance learning. So where you study at home and you send your work off and it gets marked that way. The distance learning options can also be spread out over a longer period of time. And there's also hybrid options as well, where you might be going to a university or a college to study and then doing some work through distance learning. There is a whole range of different options within what we traditionally call university. There are courses which are exam-based, there are courses which are practical, there are courses which are coursework-based. So working out what you want, if you're considering this, and how you like to study and learn is really, really important. But when we talk about university, don't forget all those other options. There's also then, of course, the apprenticeships, and apprenticeships range from level 2 qualifications all the way through to level 7. If you're not sure what's available, then check out the Skills England occupational maps. There's links below that you can check out and find out more. Because there is a whole range of options within apprenticeships that you can study. Now, traditionally with an apprenticeship, you would do around about 20% off the job training, and the remainder is on the job training and you get paid. But they cover a whole range of things from hairdressing all the way through to engineering, architecture. There's even an apprenticeship to become a solicitor. There is so much stuff available within that area, and sometimes we don't realise just how much is available. But those occupational maps are well worth a look if you want to discover what's out there. Also, check out our application guides on the CXK Hub for all of the options that we're talking about today. But what are those 6 other options that don't get talked about? Let's go down and run them through so you know what they are. So first of all, the gap year. Now, a lot of people think of gap year as just going travelling and just going out there and seeing the world. But some young people are taking gap years to raise money, ready to go to university or equivalent later, or for their mental health. Being able to go, whoa, and pause, and not actually go off to go and do something next, to take a break, whether that's between going to university or going to start an apprenticeship. A gap year can be exactly that. It can be a gap. That's an option that you've got. It's okay to say, whoa, let's just stop for a moment. That's something you might choose to do. Another option that you've got is going to college. Now, college courses are dependent on funding and your own unique situation, but some students decide to go to college to basically either reset or relearn or pick up some new skills before they then continue on to their next pathway. You might, for example, go to college to go and do a construction course, something like, say, carpentry, because you want to see if you want to go and do an apprenticeship in that later. Now, you do have to be careful with funding, and funding regulations can change, so please talk to your local FE college to get more specific information about your circumstances, but it is an option that you can take. The other option that you've got is what we call work-based training. Now, work-based training is brilliant, and I've actually supported quite a few young people through this pathway. It's different to an apprenticeship because there isn't a formal qualification or standards that you're following with regards to your training. It's often a little bit more flexible, and the entry criteria is often a bit more flexible. Let me give you an example. If you wanted to become a security guard, generally you need to be 18 and above to do that, but you would go and complete a work-based qualification that's called an SIA, which is your security license, so you can go and work as a security guard. That's an example of work-based training. Can be done through an employer or through a separate training provider. You might otherwise, for example, maybe get a job working in a warehouse and you do some training on the job to learn to drive forklifts. You might go and get a job in construction and you go and do some qualifications to be able to drive machines, those amazing things that we see on the building sites. These are all examples of work-based training routes, of things that you could consider, which often get overlooked when we just focus maybe just on apprenticeships and the more formalised training. But what else have we got? Well, of course, there's starting your own business or self-employment. You might start off as a side hustle, but then you might grow it into something. This could be something that you decide to do, that you set up your own business, whether physical business or an online business, and you use that as your way forward. that could be the thing that you do. Check out our business guide on our website to help you with starting up your own business and the advice around that. What else might you do? You might decide to go and do volunteering or do some social impact projects where you give your time to something that you care passionately about, or just to help you get some more skills to prepare you and make you ready for the future. If you don't feel quite ready, for example, of maybe going into work and doing an apprenticeship, something like volunteering can be incredibly helpful as a stepping stone. Now, within things like the volunteering, depending on your circumstances and your age, there are also supported programs for whether you have additional needs. So whether you're looking at any of these options, there are organisations that can support you with accessing the pathway that you want to take. But what's the last option that we've got? Well, taking a blended approach where you might combine some or all of these. I've worked with one young person recently who is doing open university courses as a part of one form of distance learning to actually kind of broaden out their knowledge, whilst also setting up their own business. They're doing these two things at once. They've combined where ideas of what they want to do. I've worked with one student recently who wanted to have a career being a digital nomad, and they've basically set themselves on a path where they're going to go travelling, but they're also going to convert their own van out and then work remotely in, I think it's the marketing and sort of graphic design sort of stuff as a digital nomad whilst they travel. There are so many more options than just apprenticeships or university. So if you're there and you're 18 and you're thinking about, oh, what can I do, but I don't feel like the university or the apprenticeship route is for me, consider some of these other options. Now, if you need support working through your ideas, make sure you access your independent careers advisor at whatever setting you find yourself in. Alternatively, contact the National Careers Service. Details are below to access some support from the fantastic careers advisors that are there. So, as we said, we have lots of resources available on our CXK Careers Hub and our website, including how to write your own CV. Check out that video to unpick the mysteries of CV writing. Hopefully this will help you.